Solve the equation, the absolute value of 3x squared minus 4x, which is equal to 15. So here is our absolute value equation. We can see that the absolute value is isolated on the left side, and we have the constant on the right side. Now keep in mind here that the absolute value of an expression, when it's equal to a constant, gives us the following definition. X is going to equal negative k, or x is going to equal positive k. So in this case here, for step number 2, we're going to have the following two definitions. We have 3x squared minus 4x, which is equal to negative 15, or 3x squared minus 4x is equal to positive 15. Okay, so now we need to write this out in quadratic form. So we're going to add the 15 to both sides. So in this case here, we're going to get 3x squared minus 4x because we're adding the 15 to both sides. So we have plus 15, which is equal to 0. Or we have 3x squared minus 4x, and here we're subtracting 15 to both sides, and that's equal to 0. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use the AC method to solve. So in order to find the AC method, remember that A times C is 3 times 15, which is equal to 45. Okay, now, what are two numbers that when you multiply them together you get positive 45, that when you add them together it gives you negative 4? Okay, so we got to come up with two numbers. Okay, so we know that 45 in prime factorization form is 3 times 15, and this is 3 times 5. So what two numbers can we multiply to get positive 45? Then when we add it together, we're going to get negative 4. So because we cannot find here two numbers to multiply to get positive 45 to get negative 4, now we got to use the quadratic formula. So for step 4, we got to let A equal 3, B is equal to negative 4, and then C is equal to 15. So using the quadratic formula, X is going to equal negative B, so that's a negative times negative 4, plus or minus the square root of B squared, which is negative 4 squared, minus 4 times A times C, which is 15, and then we're going to divide that by 2 times A, which is 3. So we get positive 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared is 16, minus, this is 4 times 3 times 15, which gives us 180, and then we're dividing that by 6. And so therefore this is going to equal 4 plus or minus, well, 16 minus 180 gives us negative 164. So this is plus or minus negative 164 divided by 6. And now we need to find out what is the perfect square in 164. So that means that the perfect square is 4 times the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 41. So therefore this is going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2 Square root of negative 1 is I times the square root of 41 over 6. And then if we simplify this, we know that 4 and 6 and 2 all have a 2 in common. So this is going to be 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 41 over 3. So that's the first part of our two solutions. Okay, now let's take a look at the second one here. So here we can try to use the AC method again. So let's take a look here. So the AC is taking 3, multiplying it by negative 15, which gives us negative 45. So if we create our x and we have negative 45 and the middle number of negative 4, well, what two numbers can we multiply to get negative 45? When we add them together, it gives us negative 4. Well, it's going to be positive 5 and then negative 9. So therefore, we end up with 3x squared plus 5x minus 9x, and that's minus 15, which is equal to 0. And let's first factor out what they have in common in the first two terms, which is x. We have 3x plus 5, which you should get the same thing on this side, which is 3x plus 5. And so what do we need to multiply by 3x to get negative 9? Well, that's negative 3. So now we end up with 3x plus 5 times x minus 3, which is equal to 0. Using the zero product rule, we have 3x plus 5, which is equal to 0, or x minus 3, which is equal to 0. So we have 3x, which is equal to negative 5. Divide both sides by 3, and x is equal to negative 5/3, or x is equal to positive 3. So here are our solutions. We have negative 5/3. We have a positive 3, and then we have 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 41 over 3. Let's go ahead and put those solutions in. So again, we have negative 5/3 and 3. So negative 5/3, comma 3. Comma, we have our fraction. We have 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 41. So it's 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 41. And that's divided by 3. Let's check our answer, and there is our result.